So, what do you think is the biggest challenge of a marketer in 2025?
See, I think, one thing is the fact that every day is day one, right, in marketing. And since it's changing so much, it's really hard to be able to gauge the way the patterns are changing. And, while I'm handling Middle East, Southeast Asia, it comes with its own challenges, right? Of course, human behaviors are same, but the buying pattern is not the same, right? The decision making structures, the way those industry segments up are making those decisions in that particular country is very unique. Even though some of these markets like Middle East and Southeast Asia, and there are so many countries under Southeast Asia, they're very relationship based, right? Unlike India, it's very transactional in India, and you build relation only as you move the ladder from mid market to enterprise. A lot of marketeers feel that I've delivered my MQLs, or I've given stage 2 opportunities or SAL, sales accepted lead, I'm good to go. I think the really smart marketeers are the one who's investigative type. And we have a great CRM, so I go digging around the CRM, finding out what was the last conversation. And you can see, of course, the emails or the phone calls. And I have in my past as well picked up conversation. I said, hey, SDR, how can you talk like this to a CXO? He's not your buddy. So if you are that kind of a marketer who goes around looking at things and ensuring that the inside sales is calling or the sales has got the leads, you get a feedback, are these leads good enough or you need more, why is it bad? I think that investigative approach can really take you through that revenue function. Otherwise, you're just an enabler of thousands of leads coming in, but you'll always be questioned, right, on quality. So if you are that investigative marketer, then I think it's big battle one.
Welcome back to the Marketing Couch. In this episode, we feature Archana Chopda, a senior B2B marketing leader from the tech industry. Archana has worked for some of the leading tech companies of our times, including GE, HP, Microsoft, and Salesforce. Currently, Archana is the Vice President of greytHR, which is a leading HRMS SaaS platforms. Archana manages India, Southeast Asia, and the Middle East market for the company. During our conversation, we unpacked a number of important topics that are relevant to B2B marketing today. This, to begin with, we spoke about revenue marketing and what it likes to own the revenue for the company as a marketing leader. We spoke about marketers' obsession about funnel and often overlooking the important aspect of buyer persona and buyer behaviors. We also covered about the emerging role of AI in marketing and her take on why AI will continue to be an assistant and will not replace a CMO role. We also talked about enterprise and startup marketing. We covered what it takes to do the market expansions and the geographic expansion in from a marketer's perspective. We also covered what it likes to be a B2B marketing leader in 2026 and what are her hiring secrets when she hires the marketing professionals for her team. If you like the content, please like, share, and comment. And do not forget to subscribe the channel. It helps us to get the reach and helps us to go to as many people like yourself. With that, I present Archana Chopda. Hey Archana, welcome to the Marketing Couch.
Hi, Jaideep. So happy to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Was looking forward to this session. So glad to have you on the pod today. Let's get started right away. You are part of Great HR. Can you talk about your role and what is your key charter now?
Sure. So greytHR is actually a full suite, HRMS SaaS product, which has products from hire to retire. And it's built on a very strong reputation over, 4 or 5 years, where the company has built the HR community and have some very innovative, activations and promotions like Great FM podcast. We also have a webinar series where SMEs come and talk about some of the trends and policies across HR, and these are our SMEs, so we call it Parichaya webinars. We've also built a very thriving Great Tribe community, and it's grown exponentially in the last 4 5 years. So while there has been a lot of initiatives like that, my mandate when I joined last year was to head the marketing division for India, Middle East, and Southeast Asia. And the most important responsibility was to transform and elevate the entire marketing function, pivoting towards revenue marketing philosophy, and to really drive the aggressive measurable growth. And my journey at Great HR is nothing short of exhilarating. I think we've made some bold strides in marketing strategy, establishing very ambitious revenue marketing, and and working on some of these capabilities from ground up, from inception. I think the progress has been really fun and very rewarding, because I'm a very creative person and I love, to look at innovative ways of building a strategy, whether it's brand or, from a revenue marketing. And I also like, something about Great HR. I think the trust that they embed in the Great HR leadership, it's more like an ethos, right? It empowers us like domain experts, whether it is marketing or customer success or product, to really experiment very freely and experiment for strategies that can deliver impactful outcomes, that in the manner we choose. So there's no restriction, there are no guardrails per se at Great HR. It's really been fun, and I'm really enjoying my time here.
Fantastic. It sounds like music to the ear. And, I personally also know and track Great HR. Definitely, it sounds very sort of similar to what you just said. So, one of the important aspect of our, discussion in this podcast is that marketing today has evolved in last 10 years at a pace which is a lot faster than probably the previous decade or the decade before, right? And like you mentioned yourself, you're also very creative, right? I think the best marketers are those who are both artist and also scientist,
I would say
right?
best marketers are advertisers.
Correct. Yes. Even I started my journey, and my first 4 or 5 years was actually in advertising. So, uh, definitely yes. And I also come from a creative background, and it is good to know that fellow marketeers who appreciate that, and able to apply some of the creative aspect in marketing, because otherwise marketing seem to have picked up too much of tools and infra and science technologies measurement, which is actually helping in a way to measure things, but then when everything is like about measure, sometimes the fun is lost, right?
Yes,
And
absolutely.
I'm sure you are able to sort of get it what I'm saying. So the challenge that, and I think we were recently in one of the events that we attended together, and there was a discussion track about funnel is dead, and I kept thinking about it. So what do you think is the biggest challenge of a marketer in 2025?
See, I think, one thing is the fact that every day is day one, right, in marketing. And since it's changing so much, it's really hard to be able to gauge the way the patterns are changing. And, while I'm handling Middle East, Southeast Asia, it comes with its own challenges, right? Of course, human behaviors are same, but the buying pattern is not the same, right? The decision making structures, the way those industry segments up are making those decisions in that particular country is very unique. Even though some of these markets like Middle East and Southeast Asia, and there are so many countries under Southeast Asia, they're very relationship based, right? Unlike India, it's very transactional in India, and you build relation only as you move the ladder from mid market to enterprise. But again, nurturing these relationship, it brings about a very distinct challenge. Something that I did in Great HR is that we went very deep in terms of understanding the market and the behavior of the market towards our product. For instance, how is HR product discovered in Middle East and in different countries in Southeast Asia? What strategies should we adopt to build that trust and the brand salience in these countries? We've integrated multiple layers of market and competitive intelligence and analysis to really figure out the target audience, and how would they respond to brand, digital, and sometimes even field marketing initiatives, because you need to activate the market at some point. And we compared that with our peers. In fact, we went really deep with extensive research via AI engines to score great HR against its competition. What are a competition doing to reach these, audiences? What are they doing across 7 to 8 different channels? And what are the strategies? This gave some very good, insights, because now you're, putting everybody in a benchmark, and you're saying, okay, where do I stand? So there are a lot of gaps were identified, a lot of recommendations were, bought into from what you can do from, point of view of strategy for each channel. I think that is something that I would say is the biggest challenge today. If you are looking at things that are changing as a marketer, you can be very adaptable, you can, really learn those things, but buying pattern behaviors also change with technology. So if you're not able to understand the buying patterns and the behavior of an organization in this technological world, then it's quite a bit of a task. In fact, I actually even reached out to some of my peers who've launched some of these products in these regions and markets, got some nuanced, anecdotes of how they did things. And I've reached out to my friends who stay in these countries just to understand people. So I think in this AI world, or in this world where technology is changing so much, if you make an effort to understand people behavior, which goes beyond a human behavior, right? And how they react as a professional person making a decision for a product. I think that is something that if you're able to do, then it's quite easy to, get started, in this disruptive world.
Agree, yeah. And I think the markets that you mentioned outside India, like Middle East and Southeast Asia, I was with Moengage, and these are two key markets for us as well.
I should connect with you to get some of your insights on how did you
Yeah. No,
win in.
sure. I think we should definitely connect offline. And I,
Yeah.
in fact, was speaking with my colleague Ashwin. I just recently had him in the podcast, and we were discussing in the similar lines as well. I was also managing customer success in these areas.
Oh, that's going to
Knowing,
be a gold mine of insights from
yeah.
you.
So I think unique. The cultural nuances are very critical to understand in these markets to be successful. And by default, I have seen in Southeast Asia, customers are very demanding. And unlike what we see from here, each market again is very unique. And there are a lot of layers. So I completely that resonates with me.
Yeah, and I think Southeast Asia requires a lot of patience, because
It does.
they're not looking at product, they're definitely looking at pricing, but they're also looking at how you've built that relations over 1 or 2 years. So they don't jump straight off. They want to wait and watch, and they're very, I would say they're an audience who keep to themselves. They don't
Hmm.
give. They're not very expressive.
They are not very expressive. Exactly, they
They're
are
not very
not.
expressive, like, in India or even in Australia or US. If they don't like, they'll tell you, on your
Exactly.
face, like, so and so person is, or competition is giving a better deal, the product features aren't great, can you do something, can you customize? I think with Southeast Asia, it's really hard to get that kind of, insights across the table.
So while I was in Adobe, I used to lead Southeast Asia again there for their customer success. I saw, because I was also managing India customer success at that time, and I saw the stark difference almost on a daily basis. So many of them, you will suddenly uncover that they have been quiet on something, they're really dissatisfied, and suddenly something comes out and
Yes.
there's a churn, right?
And overnight they will just go, they won't even
They'll
tell you
go
the reason.
exactly.
And you won't even know, like, what happened, what went wrong. It's yeah, you're so right.
Yeah, no, it's challenging, and it's a good segue to also wanted to check with you that HRMS is a competitive space. What's the unique value proposition for great HR? I mean, how do you distinguish yourself?
So let me just take a few steps back and explain what Great HR is, right? We are a cloud-based full suite HRMS. As a product, it brilliantly manages the entire employee life cycle from onboarding to offboarding, right? And with about 26 countries, we are very deep in local compliance, and that expertise really ensures that businesses can remain confident and are audit ready. The platform is actually very modular, scalable, and it's highly configurable as well, and serving a diverse market, and also a range of companies from startup MSMEs to mid market and large enterprise across 20 industries is something, Great HR has been doing for quite a long time. I think, but beyond the core product, the core software, what is unique about Great HR is we provide a very comprehensive HR ecosystem. Like I spoke about the Parichya webinars, the podcast, we have something called Great HR Academy for young HR executives to learn some of those, policies and procedures that enables them to be compliant ready, or understand, how payroll is, effectively managed from a finance perspective. We also have a Unite marketplace where ISV partners, vendors showcase their products on our
Mhm.
platform to our customers. And then, of course, I spoke about, Great Tribe. So we have a lot of these different, initiatives, and this really helps the entire community to come together. While our product scores very, very high on, adaptability, affordability, usability, and that's always been our design and product philosophy. I think the HR community likes the fact that we are growing with them and we want to partner rather than sell a product. So it's always the community first, educating them about policies and compliance, and the ways in which they can better or effectively manage their function versus the product push. I think that's very unique, and of course there have been many, many initiatives that has really worked well for us.
I think there are ton of good stuff that I think fellow marketers can actually take away from this. I think community, one of the things that you mentioned, I think is super important, and it is emerging as one key aspect of being trusted, right? Because many organizations, especially the larger ones, sometimes can be very pushy, and this. I think one of the good differentiating point that you mentioned is growing with the community, growing with this, the SMEs and the category, right? Because the category itself is also growing with so many aspects of it. There is a technology aspect of it, there is a compliance aspect of it, um, and then country specific. So that adds another layer to it, right? And I can definitely say that it's not an easy thing to actually juggle with so many balls, at one
Yeah,
go.
for an
So
entrepreneur, absolutely. I mean, we're looking at somebody who has two or three employees and 10 employees, and they don't have the time or mindset to be able to manage this, right? And if you have somebody who educates you, handholds you and tells you that, this is what you need to do. And while we are thought leaders, we bring a lot of SMEs from across the world who actually unravel or unpackage some of these things for the target audience, which is what they really like. And we consistently, when we go for events, we hear some of these folks and customers or prospect come like, hey, I finally, met you, and I've been part of your Parichya webinars, and I'm only seen on screen, and it's so much more fun just learning rather than, you pushing the product. So, and,
yeah.
and they say that we've grown so much, my team has grown so much because of HR, Great HR Academy. So I think that community part of it, like you said, is really the differentiator, factor for us.
And increasingly, we see that customers really connect with messaging, or messages which talks about their problem, which talks about their pain, right? Rather than pushing products, features, functionalities, right? And I think the more we are able to speak of their language, the better I think the connection is, the stronger the bond is. So switching a little bit from here, I mean, Archana, you've spent a good amount of time, in fact, 2 decades in the B2B marketing space, or in overall your career, and some of the largest companies that you have worked with are big brands like HP, G, Salesforce, Microsoft. So now switching that to a startup, which in fact, even I can share my own experience because I have done the same thing. I'm curious that what is the biggest difference in marketing approach that you have seen between an enterprise and startup environment, and what is that you needed to unlearn?
Sure. So actually, this is my second startup stint,
I
and
see.
for both of these experiences, I would, say what is highlighted by most people, right? It's
Sure.
often the truth that people talk when they have the experience from an enterprise to a startup. The fact that you need to do more with less, right? And the B2B startup ecosystem, now widely understands or recognizes that marketing is at the forefront of building that demand and creating that revenue. And actually most founders today expect it to be well oiled engine. It's not something that you're going to come set it up, right? They want it to be running from day one to deliver a very sustained bottom line growth over multiple quarters. There's no try and test. It's like deliver from day one, and that's the pressure that the startup comes along. And the biggest differentiation is that the ability to truly own your story. You own your narrative. In a startup, you're in the driver's seat. You're steering your department to ensure there's a complete alignment with the business strategy. You work very closely with the founder or the CXOs, and you also comprehend the imperatives from the board. You drive your aggressive growth through long term strategies or quick wins. I would say there are organization large which also are very similar. Like I have worked with GE and Salesforce, and to be very honest, it drives on the culture of that you are the CEO of your department. So you kind of are driving the entire agenda of your department, your team, to deliver. So I wouldn't say that it's startup versus an enterprise cultural shift or a difference. It's more got to do with the organization and the culture that they imbibe. There are, of course, a lot of other organizations that I have worked that they only want you to execute what is explicitly asked. It's autonomy versus prescription. I mean, that's, I think, the biggest difference I would see. And the unlearning that I had to do was to not take anything for granted, like question every process. In an enterprise, the process are set for a very long time, and unless you find something not working, it's very rare. You of course can question, that they have that kind of culture, but in a startup you're constantly questioning, like what is a better way to do it, how do you reach an optimum and an efficient way of operationalizing your work. I think that's the unlearning that has happened, but it's fun. Like if you look at it, you're really building something, and it enables you to craft it and mold it the way you want. So I would say that both has good or bad equally. But yes, startup really helps you build your story. Like I can create the way I want to create my department and what we drive, as far as the results are meeting what the objective is.
Agree. Yeah. I mean, I think startup gives you that autonomy, and also the fact that you have a seat on the table to
Yeah.
own the growth charter. And I think you spoke about the revenue ownership. I really wanted to double click on that to
Hmm.
understand that what you actually meant by that, and how is that is manifesting in your case, maybe.
Sure. So see, anyone can run campaigns today. You can do performance marketing, and you can, increase your conversion by X percentage on, like a weekly basis. I would call that as a very basic marketing hygiene. It's a baseline today. It's a starting point. And at this point, many of them are, stuck because they don't think beyond this point. But really, if you look at it, if you can strategically infuse marketing with meaningful business outcomes, this capability is held by very few marketers. There's not everybody who is able to do that, and this requires a lot of sophistication, and it requires a deep understanding of marketing and how every channel will perform very intuitively, because you have that many years of experience. You've spent time in content, or with partner, or how digital will really react or respond. Basis that response, you are very quickly able to say that, what, I'm going to double down on this, or I'm going to pull back, because I know this kind of channel will perform. But it will also give an added layer of what message that I'm going to give it to my prospect or customers, and how easy for them is to comprehend in that channel, because you have done that, right? And you also have this inbuilt ability to understand behaviors. So this sort of ability to really understand the potential of marketing, which when combined with business insights and competition and markets, it can really have a multifold impact on revenue. So I really consider myself, like I said, I'm a very versatile expert. I am a generalist, I am a specialist. I can go deep into partner marketing, I can create content frameworks, I can write content, I can even deliver fantastic emails. At the same time, I have worked with customers for the engagement programs, and to the level of now I'm figuring out how do I do chat GPT optimization for ranking higher on AI engines. I think the ability of going from something so deep and also working with CEOs and CXOs for a larger agenda of digital transformation, change management initiative really, brings in a lot of ability to see through the business in a manner that helps you look at it in a very holistic way so that it can help you understand what can contribute to revenue. So I think that ability and that strength, that I have partnering with CXOs and strategizing what are the future revenue streams with a very strong understanding of marketing has been one of the defining pathways for me in the last, I would say, 10, 12 years. And rooting this with marketing nuances and the performance mindset and how do you comprehend strategies is something that I would say makes you a very strategic revenue marketer. And while you are strong at marketing, but you're now seeing the business side of marketing, which is what revenue comes from.
Yeah, no, you are very right. One of the challenges with marketing leaders, and it sometimes comes from the leader because they drive the team and the initiatives, is that they tend to forget that ultimately it's a collaborative game, right? And marketing can get easily distracted with all the shining things that is there, right? And start operating in an isolation. I
Yep.
think that's a trap. So I think one needs to continuously, sort of be aware and mindful that the initiatives that I'm driving has a direct business
Business
impact,
impact, absolutely.
and I'm partnering with the right type of, like you mentioned, whether it is partner ecosystem, whether it is your field sales, whether it is your SDR, whoever it is, right? I mean, that you have the right collaboration and partnership and understanding that where does the baton sort of passed on, right? And it changes always case to case, company to company, situation to situation, enterprise to mid market or SMB. For example, many startups that I work with now, one of the challenges is, see, everybody is running fast and they have quarter goals to meet. So when you talk about too much of strategy at the early stage of companies, at times founder get a little bit impatient because they're also pressed on to deliver within that quarter timeline to close deals, right? MQL is dead for any marketers, like you mentioned. It's all about the quality of leads that actually will sort of generate income. And to continue on that path, what kind of demand gen strategy has been effective for you? I mean, any personal anecdotes or any experience that you can share with the community?
Sure, but before that, I want to add a point on passing the baton. I think a lot of marketers feel that I've delivered my MQLs, or I've given stage two opportunities or SAL, sales accepted lead. I'm good to go. I think the really smart marketers are the one who's investigative type, and I'm that. I
Hmm.
go into the details of why has this not moved? Why has it been there for 15 days?
Hmm.
And we have a great CRM. So I go digging around the CRM, finding out what was the last conversation. And you
Hmm.
can see, of course, the emails or the phone calls. And I have in my past as well picked up, conversation. I said, hey, SDR, how can you talk like this to a CXO? He's not your buddy. So if you are that kind of a marketer who goes around looking at things and ensuring that the inside sales is calling or the sales has got the leads, you get a feedback, are these leads good enough or you need more, why is it bad? I think that investigative approach can really take you through that revenue function. Otherwise you're just an enabler of thousands of leads coming in, but you'll always be questioned, right, on quality. So if you are that investigative marketer, then I think it's big battle one. But to your question on which tactic, I think in 2 decades of my experience, I've seen that company owned events consistently deliver very strong results. But there's a trick there, because you are already inviting mofu and bofu prospects. So that's a hidden driver, right? The success of these events are often hinged on who you're inviting. And once you invite these prospects, they already know you, right? They know your product, they've done their research, they go through the competition. They're only coming to seek the reaffirmation of the product, the company values, so that they're aligned, right? I mean, if you are high on security, I'm high on security, so of course there's a match. And of course they want to engage in person, or they want to network with leadership. So yes, to really say what performs well, I have seen events doing really well, but like I said, there's always a trick to it because it's
True.
already very, very mature in the process. But if you ask me which one channel performs the best, there's absolutely no singular answer to this. The notion of one single best performing channel is a huge misconception. As a marketer, you're activating so many multiple channels, and every channel plays a part, whether for brand recognition or product awareness, or even simply creating ready to be served like super hot leads, right? So marketing is so complex that the overall results is actually sum of all these interwoven parts playing out together and playing out really well.
Yeah,
So,
agree.
and if you ask one and anybody answers that one, they don't know what they're talking about, right? Or they're not
Yeah.
investing in multi channel or omni channel, as marketing. And achieving prospect discovery and the perception that they have to create requires 7 to 8 touch points, and I'm sure it's a lot more now. And this gets so compounded by social fatigue and so much intense competition, and
Absolutely.
our attention span is really short. Like, I sometimes cannot go beyond 3 pages of PDF document. And
Most of us, yeah.
yeah, and to be very frank, there's no one channel that performs, and anybody saying that this works is very, very hard. I believe consistent effort across every channel and see good success is all coming together for a larger good.
How would you recommend startup marketers prioritize this? Are there any levers, or are there any indications, or are there any nuances that they need to look for while prioritizing demand gen channels?
Yeah, so look, go where your audience is. If your audience is not on LinkedIn, and I'll give you a very simple example, right? When I was in G Healthcare, we were targeting radiologists, cardiologists, GPs, gynecologists, and just about every doctor. They're not on LinkedIn. Absolutely not possible, right? And I have used LinkedIn before G Healthcare, and I got great results. It did not work in G Healthcare. It just was not the place. But Facebook did fantastically well. And
Hmm.
because we were selling MRI, CTs, and through public private partnership, which means that we wanted to do CSR, activities, reach out to rural and smaller towns, and ensure that their trauma care centers have the right products. Facebook was that reach that, way back in 2018-20, that we were able to reach. So I think the biggest trick is to see where your audience is. Where do they respond? Where are they most, engaged? And this is not easy as Facebook, right? Like, if somebody is waking up in the morning and they have an IT, background, they might be traveling in a metro or in a car. Podcast could be one, advertising on some of these different audio, channels. Similarly, if they are in a gym, it's very different. They are going, picking up a coffee or having lunch or breakfast, it's very different. Again, if they're going on OTT to watch their favorite series, some people even watch on their phones, some people are gaming. If you don't understand how the entire day of your target audience is, then it's really hard for you to pick a channel. But if you understand how they would respond, like, a doctor might not be happy if you are constantly pushing ads in places that they want to relax, because they've had a hard day. They might have been a 20-hour surgery and they don't have the mind space. So if you can just understand that and work around that, I think that's a huge step. And with that, the behavior of these people, channel plus the behavior of of your target audience, will really help you pick the right one.
Agreed. I think knowing your customer or knowing your audience at the end of the day becomes very critical. So, knowing your buyer persona and what their day looks like, or what their um, a journey looks like, kind of enable you to actually plan your channels and touch points. And I think the second part is, I guess, experimentation, because you will never get probably at one go right, right?
Yeah.
There's a constant learning, and things are also shifting. So
I have actually experimented so much in my entire career. Like, I have experimented, like, don't ask, how much, because this, every time when I see a problem and I know that I have seen this problem in the past and maybe in a different industry or a different company or a sector, I put a new lens to it. And I said, if just because it worked in the past doesn't mean it's going to work again. Like, what can I do differently? Even through a simple, direct mail campaign, how can I make it very unique? I think, if you, like I said, if you're in advertising, if you're a creative person, you thrive on experimentation. You want to, because we are so used to working with so many clients and, so many people, and, providing these great ideas across so many different things. You want to take that, experimentation to your creative work. And it also sometimes goes beyond, just creative content or design. It goes in terms of, okay, if I'm defining an email nurture journey, like, what is the right way to do, which one will give me faster result, but should I sustain engagement, because, this is a long deal, it's going to take 6 7 months. So you're very right, that experimentation mindset is really important. And I think that is what sets you apart. Like, if you are doing what you were doing yesterday, and if you're doing what your competition is doing, then with all the noise, you are just drowning in it.
Yeah, I mean, you need to keep challenging the status quo. So, Archana, from my research, I figured that you have emphasized always of aligning marketing strategy with sales. For a lot of budding startup marketers, um, can you, for the benefit of that community, can you help elaborate a little bit on that, on how that theory comes about and why it is so critical?
Sure, indeed. I think the biggest learning I got from alignment between marketing and sales was through GE and Salesforce. Well, I had more successful marketing and sales alignment in Salesforce. Of course, the culture is, that way. But what I learned is that, marketing and sales is actually just two sides of the same coin. You are going behind the same singular mandate of driving revenue. You both have the same goals. So it's
Correct.
just that, how do you now come together, to solve critical, problems, and collaboratively align for, go to market strategies. I have seen some marketing and sales team, come and say that, hey, I want to do an event, and that's about it, right? And marketing comes and executes, don't ask questions, and just they just go ahead and do it. And I've also seen teams that sales comes back and gives very, very clean, nuanced, insights. My customer is saying this, I am handling retail as an industry, this is what I'm seeing, what can we do to change? I'm selling one product, but I can't sell beyond that, because, customer is not wanting to introduce me to his other colleagues. So when these insights come from sales, and then marketing looks at it as a challenge and solve it in a very creative way, I think that's when the magic happens, right? And it requires marketing, leaders to really proactively be involved, not just at the start of the year, but also consistently through the year. Like, at the outset, of course, you're, planning, and you're doing the critical, kickoffs, and you define what your GTM, at the start of the year is. But the consistent feedback that you get from field sales, right, from a market perspective, really helps. And for this, I would suggest, that everybody has this tight alignment with sales, and, conduct, multiple weekly sync ups, right? And this should not just be with that one salesperson you're working, but it should be across your entire inside sales. It should be field sales, the segment leader, and even channel sales. Understand from their perspective what's happening, why is it not moving, what is customer thinking from a product or price perspective. And also, sometimes working with the founders and CXOs, because they also have some fantastic insight. They also meeting customers, and they look at from a very, larger view. It's such a macro view. And then if you kind of put the puzzles together, you really, then it becomes very easy to strategize. And then all matters now is in terms of execution. So I think, this robust collaboration, it really ensures you understand customer, you understand that you have a common goal for the customer, and you really, facilitate this, this pivot that you constantly have to do in marketing, right? And that pivot, whether you're doing from a technology or from a insight, this becomes very important when you're doing it together with your sales buddy, is what I would say.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Plus one there. I think the more we understand each other's role and what is important for them, I think the better we complement each other. Particularly for sales, one of the things that I always suggest my team, I think it is important to sit through sales calls, and you learn ton. because a lot of things sometimes, like Chinese whisper, get lost, right? So when you actually sit through these calls, and this is one of the reasons I actually took a break from marketing and spent 4 or 5 years in customer success,
Customer, yes.
because that's where rubber hits the road, right? You actually get to hear from your customer all those promises that marketing as a brand you have evangelized, you have spoken about. How are they manifesting in the real world? Is customer support is delivering on that promise? Is engineering hearing the feedback, or is product team hearing the feedback from customer,
Or
right?
is marketing overselling?
Or is marketing overselling? Yes. So I think the other thing I always feel works well is that if marketers carve out time to connect with customers directly, it could be through maybe the QBR or SBR, whatever it is, right? But it works because when you connect with them and you are creative, you are coming from a very empathetic kind of position, and marketing always look like long term and strategy, right? So when you connect with customers, you get a lot of good feedback into your organization, into your marketing strategy, and
Yeah.
help in much more meaningful way.
Yeah.
So Achana, again switching to the tech side now, AI is everywhere. It's an explosive. In fact, AI is making a lot of leaders very uncomfortable. Let's put it that way, right? And I speak to a lot of leaders, and almost everyone admits that if there is one reason they are losing sleep, right, is in that. Because while there's a lot of promise, but no one single person I found now, including myself, of course, have a clear picture and answer of what really is the future. But everybody is trying out something from their side. Are you experimenting anything with AI? I think you touched upon a little bit some time back,
Yeah.
but can you share some insights maybe?
Sure, absolutely. The first thing I think everybody should know is that AI is an intern. It's not the CMO. It can never be, right? Because it cannot, comprehend human emotions. It can't comprehend customer interactions, right? Which you just spoke about. You're not in that same room. Even if you feed in the data, the human emotion, the empathy part of it, never comes along, right? And you're talking about 20, 30 years of experience that, you and I would have had over, so many different segments in industry. How can AI be so perfect? Like I said, it's an intern. You need to train it. It definitely can't take over CMO's job. So in Great HR, my team and I actually are adopting AI across everything. The first thing that we always ask is like, can this be done better with AI? Right? We're not saying that can this, replace the person's job, and can AI do it? Like, can this be better? That's the first question to ask. And it actually spans across every operating function, whether you're talking about content or design, the creatives that come out of it, right? From even from a digital marketing perspective, like looking at our media plans and like asking AI, is this the best optimized way? There are a lot of tools that can even help you, across different channels that you're looking at. I feel AI is most effectively utilized in market research and competitive analysis. And I gave an example of it, right? The power of generative AI, when you coach, like I said, it's an intern. When you coach it and it's trained well, it's really exceptional, right? And if you have a great Martech stack, which has very pervasive AI across the flow of your work, which does not feel that you're forcing yourself to use it. I think it provides a lot of superior insights and recommendations, and sometimes make you see through things that you may not look at it because of time constraint. There's a huge use case for AI, from market research as well, right? When we're looking into new markets,
Absolutely.
what would take my team member who is into market and competitive intelligence, say 2 to 3 months, it takes hardly 2 days to look up a competition and not just provide information from a pricing product messaging, go to the level deeper and say that, what, this particular competition is doing very well on LinkedIn because of the thought leadership, and because they've been featuring this in this, SME, and again, like I said, rate it among all the competition. So like I said, it's how you use it, right? If you really wanted to master your work, it can, if you train it.
Yeah.
So like I said, use it as an intern. Anybody who comes in your organization who can just do that basic work that is required and just do a little bit of enhancement. Like if I'm doing SEO or geo, am I doing well? Have I considered everything? Should I be looking at this particular aspect of it, right? So I think it's a great technology which people should not be scared, because it only, elevates your job really fast. And then the downside is that things are happening so fast, so you are also moving at the speed is right. It's crazy.
It is
You're
crazy.
delivering intelligence so fast to salespeople or product teams. The rate at which innovation then again happens, or the channel or the partners are looking at go to market strategies, is so fast. So I think the pace increases, which could be overwhelming, while you take, say, about a month or two to digest, to understand, mull over it, think about it, pivot, read about it, and then form some sort of a consensus or some sort of a structure or framework in your mind. Here it's ready, and you don't know how true it is, right? So that's again the downside. But I think if you can balance it off with your intuition, your experience, what AI gives, and with empathy, and some of the interactions that you have with field and sales, which is never going to be part of AI, it's a great tool. But everything has to come together. You can't rely completely on AI.
Just like an intern, right? You can completely rely on an intern.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah, no, you are right, absolutely. So, Archana, you have spent almost 2 decades across industries, domains, and I'm sure there are a ton of experience on the way, and you played different roles as well. How does all of these help you to play your current role? I mean, I can already see that many ways, but I just wanted to hear your own reflection on this.
Yeah, I get a lot of questions like, you've done so many industries, varied companies, from B2C to B2B, SaaS, manufacturing, healthcare. I mean, why would you
And
do
even
something?
agency, right?
Yeah, even agency. And they're like, why would you do something like this, right? And I actually hold a very strong belief that this is my distinct competitive edge because as a marketeer, I am now targeting varied companies, the different profiles, and I have I possess a very clear understanding on how these industries work, what are the different segments in these industries, how these companies operate, and what are their intricate decision making model. Like, I understand how healthcare works, I understand how manufacturing works, who are the decision makers, how do they respond to technology. If I'm selling a SaaS product, how easy or how difficult for them is to accept, what emphasis they put across product or pricing, right? Because I've worked in those companies for a good amount of time. I think this insight that that I've gathered across so many different companies, and the way they work, the way they deliver marketing, the way their martech stacks are, what metrics are important to a HP e-commerce shopping.com, is so different to watch what metrics is there for GE, Microsoft, or even Salesforce. While metrics is the same, how does this metric mean for the next steps in marketing? I think understanding that really helped me build very robust customer acquisition frameworks, optimizing target through the entire funnel, because now I know if I have to do an awareness, what sort of awareness or content strategy I need to take. If I have to look at converting at a BOFU, how easy it is to reach a doctor versus how easy it is to reach a student who's looking at back to school products, right? So it's a lot easier for me to understand that. And when I'm selling product to this different industries, it makes a lot of more sense, right? You're very intuitive because you have so much experience. I think this extensive cross industry multi product experience is very profound. It shaped my worldview, and it imbibed kind of some exceptional business acumen, which is so hard. Otherwise you take so much time and energy. It's very challenging to cultivate that understanding of company, the structure, the business, and how they grow, what kind of growth strategies are there in a startup versus in an enterprise. So I call it my advantage that I bring to the table. If there's any SaaS company who's looking to target multiple industry, I am that person. I definitely do really well in that kind of environment.
Fantastic. So that's a good segue to my next question, which is with that experience, considering you are at a growth stage company, how do you spot talent? What are your criteria of hiring? What do you look for?
Very unique, actually. So I only look for three core capabilities. One is attitude, but positive attitude. Second is to have a very proactive readiness to embrace any challenge. A challenge should be like, oh, this is what I have, been born for. That kind of, perception that the challenge is what makes me tick is the second, trait that I look at. And then there is a very deep commitment of delivering result. So I have this problem. If I start something, I have to end it, and end it in a positive note, end it that it has driven results. You call it like a marwadi brain that jitna paisa dala usse 10 guna aana hai. So I think that has been such a core of my value system, that every money you put or every dollar you put, it has to give you 5 or 10x for sure. And I look at talent also in that way, because that brings a lot of passion, it brings a lot of intrinsic value of taking pride on what you are delivering and your work, because you're now seeing through it. So basically, positive attitude, somebody who's, ready to embrace challenge, and of course, is like dying to make it work. I think these are the three things that I look for, and I've been very fortunate, and I've consistently hired people who embody these, intrinsic human values, and it kind of translates to exceptional, performance, because anybody who's proud of, what they deliver will learn, will grow, will do everything possible to go to inside sales, to sales, and say like, hey, why is it not converting? I spoke to the customer, I spoke to the prospect, he came to the booth, right? And I think there is value in this. Why don't we make a call? How can I help you move the needle? Can I engage this customer? That pride in your work, and and seeing the result, matters to that person. I think some of these things are really important, when I hire.
So one of the challenges I personally face is it's not always easy to read on the interview stage. Are there any tips or recommendations you have for fellow hiring managers?
Really hard, actually, very very hard. But I do, take some effort. If it's a critical role hire, I do take some effort to understand the person's image in front of their parents or in front of their friends. So one question I ask, like, right now, what would your friends talk about you? What would your parents say? Or what would your peers say? What would your ex manager say? So there are some, of course, very good questions and easily, available resources online, unique questions that you can ask. While there's no right or wrong answer, but how the parents see the child and what the child is, or how the, the individual is proud of saying, what the parents view or perception is really reflective of the person itself, because in that moment they can't make up. Of course, reading the body language is very, very unique. I did not think I was good at it, but over years, I realized that I'm very good at just understanding the person by the body language. So I always ensure that, that the cameras are on, if, if it is a, digital interview or a virtual interview, and if I'm face to face, I'm looking at that person, and it's, I don't know how to explain, but you get that aura, you understand the person the minute you see them. And
You can
I
read
didn't.
the body language
Yes,
basically.
and
Yeah.
body language is not sitting straight or
Yeah.
looking, it's not
Whether
that.
your body and your words are in sync.
Yeah, and it's also, I think there is something, I don't know how to explain it, because
Hmm.
it's not something I learned. I just happen to know that I'm good at it, and I started
Hmm.
using a lot more. I go with
Hmm.
my instinct, I go with my gut, right? And
Hmm.
there are people sometimes who, who come and say that, what, this person, like my peers or my team members who, interview, they said they can do, but I'm not sure if they can do more than what they know. So then that is when I look like, is this person okay to grow? Can they, learn? Are they open to challenges? And like I said, there are very easy ways of, asking those
Hmm.
questions.
Hmm.
And if
Hmm.
the person is not flustered and is answering really well, you kind of get those tips very, very easily. It's really hard to explain it, but I think I will put it to a body language as a bigger, scenario, in terms of tips if I had to give. But and something that easily doable is a lot of resources and questions that you can ask. I even
Hmm.
ask, what is your 1 year, 3 year, 5 year plan? I definitely ask that, if it is again a critical role, right? Somebody who's working under me. I think the ability to have a vision for yourself also kind of indicates the vision that you have for, anything that you pick up. So
Yeah.
you are somebody who thinks long. You're not
Yeah.
somebody who completely says, okay, I've got leads and this is done and I don't really care about it. So
Yeah.
like that, there are small, small things that, you
Mm.
can really pick up, and
Mm.
learn over time.
One of the things I also try is that what would be your 30, 60, and 90-day plan
Yeah.
when you come on board, right?
Yeah.
Just to see that how much they really envision themselves in that role.
Yeah. In fact, I also ask sometimes, when I say, like, I start off saying that what is one project, program, or a campaign that you've been extremely successful in, explain me. Of course, people who use star method and all, get a brownie point. But that's a leading question. That's a first question to the next one, which is, what have you failed in? It's a very nice question. Talk about one campaign that you failed in, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
many people have not failed, right? It's
Mm.
not easy, but how do they think through that? And they come and say that, it's very hard to find something that I failed. Then I say, okay, look at your personal life. What is
Mm.
it that you failed?
Mm.
It There's something always,
There
if
is always something. If
well
someone is saying, look,
personal.
I've never failed, maybe they just don't know themselves.
Yeah, so personally there'll be something, right?
Yeah.
The awareness of that failure and
Yes.
what did they do to
Yes.
overcome that, is something that can also be replicated in professional life. So, like I said, a lot of small tricks, but yeah, it works.
So, Archana, I understand you also actively mentor women entrepreneurs. If you think of your experience, what, in your opinion, what are the usual mistakes that you see sometimes?
Sure.
Anything that comes up?
Yeah, so I've mentored more founders and very few marketing leaders. So from a founder
Sure.
perspective, I have observed that, they're inherently not good marketers. Right? They're entrepreneurs, but they may not be good marketers. There are very few of them who are really good, and the ones who are good don't have to, of course, be mentored, right? And the ones who are learning, I think the belief is that, when you're developing marketing acumen, you create it as a starting point and a gateway to understand how sales work. So if you want to sell more, you need to first understand how marketing works, and that's what I always talk to them. So I've had a privilege of, mentoring a lot of startups ranging from dating apps and, environmental products, clothing companies, children's clothing companies, predictive AI for manufacturing. And most of them, because I've been actively involved in CW, which is Catalyst for Women Entrepreneurship. It's a non-profit dedicated to uplift, women entrepreneurs. I think because I've been tied to them, it's more of women founders or entrepreneurs that I have mentored. And the way that I really work with them is I involve first to understand their entire business end to end. I position myself as a virtual marketing leader because I don't want to come and say that this is working, this is not working, you should look at this channel. But I really look at it from somebody who is looking at their business model, and again with the behavior aspect of prospect and consumers, where they are, what should they be selling, and which business strategies would work. Should they go a partner way, should they go an alliance way, or should they directly sell D2C, or or should they do a a longer route of selling. I think that's where I think they require a lot of work, because while the product is great, pricing is great, it can sell by itself, they really don't, because these are young women founders, they really don't understand how to tie in the entire business process together. And this kind of helps me go beyond providing strategic guidance and sharing clear and actionable execution pathways. I think it directly contributes to their revenue stream, and that's kind of made it very, very easy for me to help them, because I don't come in as, okay, we meet one time and I'm going to evaluate your work and what you're doing, and I'll suggest a few things. I go deeper, and sometimes I work with the extended marketing team or social team to understand where they're going wrong from a performance perspective also.
Yeah, I mean, I think these are such important observation, and I'm sure a lot of women entrepreneurs, and I think it could be male or woman, both, right? That they lose sight of. Especially even I also have seen, just to complement what you said. Sometimes they're very good at building products. They're very good at creating a business model. Often, what happens is they don't consider too much on the GTM side. They have not thought through really how, what is my distribution channel, how do I take it to the people that I'm actually the product I'm building for. That also is a miss many times I see.
Yeah.
And I think that continues to remain a challenge as I interact also with founders. So talking about 2025, you are a senior marketing leader, spent have strong experience in the SaaS space. What are those three or four important traits you think as marketers or the young marketers need to have, those skills that that is important to remain relevant in today's fast changing environment, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think by now you know that I'm not a normal professional. I always have a different way of thinking. So I think when you're looking at the way marketing is changing, right? And I'm saying every day is day one. And it's like you get up in the morning and a huge, you see a huge wall because something has changed overnight. So if you're looking at the shifting marketing landscape, I think the two most important skill is adaptability and flexibility. I think if you are a marketeer, you'll frequently encounter situations that require daily pivots, not just working with sales or CXOs and changing because business strategy is changing. You are changing now, you are pivoting because technology is changing, right? And the way these prospects are consuming that technology, or the way they are active on those technology platforms, and how they are driving their own experience, really changes the way you think every day. So this daily pivot, which is again driven by real time insights, and having this direct marketing response to your program and campaigns, and for you to very easily see the response that is coming from a particular segment or an industry for a particular product at a certain moment of time. If you are able to adapt, and if you're flexible to change your strategy overnight, while business impact and objectives are still in place, I think this is something that most people should really prioritize. And this flexible approach, and and you have this commitment of delivering outcomes which will really help you learn, grow continuously, because you have this, like I said, you have this skill that I have to deliver results. I will do anything, I will take up the challenge. And then you have this flexibility now to say that, what, it's okay, it's changed, I will change. So that helps you now say, okay, I'm going to embrace this, I'm going to master this, and I'm going to look at the new marketing technologies or the new ways of reaching my prospects or consumer. I'm going to learn about it and I'm going to deliver. I
Mm.
think this really, if you have this adaptability and flexibility, and with all the other skills I spoke, it can give you
Mm.
a very sustained success if you just are on top of it.
Yeah, yeah, the hunger, right?
Yes.
That, yeah, so that appetite needs to be there.
Yeah.
If you don't have that hunger, the adaptability and
And
flexibility
also
will
being
not.
flexible, right? You might have the
Yeah.
hunger, but you can be stuck up saying that, what, I don't want to try AI because it's
Oh
anyway going
yes.
to die after two,
Yeah,
three
yeah, yeah, yeah.
years.
I mean, flexibility is very critical. If you're not nimble, you are not be will not be able to pivot, and that
Yes.
is important.
Yeah.
In today's situation. So let me pose this question with you, right? One of the things that I notice in B schools, even today, after some 20-25 years of active B2B marketing roles that are thriving in the industry, still the B schools focuses on
B2C.
B2C focused marketing, right?
Yep.
Why do you think they still sort of don't proactively teaches B2B marketing? Because it is a very different ball game at the end of the day. And if you are mentoring someone who is just passing out, what would you say to that student, that why they should consider B2B marketing role, and what would it take for them to be successful in B2B marketing?
Absolutely. I have actually mentored a lot of young MBA candidates, or
Hmm.
marketeers who have just started off in their career. I've actually mentored about 100 of them in the last 5 or 6 years.
Wow.
Many
Okay.
from my alumni college, NMIMS.
NMIMS. Yeah.
Right. In fact, there was this conversation in NMIMS that they had invited some of us, saying that, okay, how can we change our course structure for it to be more aligned? And that kind of led for some of us saying that you are not teaching B2B, which is so complex, which is so difficult, right? And it is not easy to understand this by just talking about your basic marketing models or positioning and pricing. It just doesn't work anymore, right? Even the tech stack that they talk is not up to date on those textbooks. I think most colleges know that, but B2B is so complex. How do you package it and put it in a textbook? Like I said, it's changing so much every day, right? It's very hard to keep up. Whereas B2C, there those models, those principles are still the same, because now you're talking to a consumer directly who can buy a product within 2 days, use it, experience it, provide a feedback, and you change your product, and you're done. And of course that comes with a consumer behavior with now fueled with technology, marketing martech stack, right? So it's pretty much straightforward. People who are in B2C things, they think that they're so complicated and complex and it's very hard. But if you come to the B2B side, because I've done both, B2B is so complex because you are now engaging from 3 months, 6 months, and in G I was engaging for 2 years, you know, because the product is so expensive. It
Yeah,
takes 2 years
yeah,
for
yeah.
them to decide, right?
Yeah, in fact, in some of the AVM programs, it takes anywhere between 6 to 8 months to much longer.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know one example where Vinod was there from 24/7. He was sharing that one specific example where they chased 7 years one account before it materialized, but it became a $20 million per year deal, eventually 100 million 5 year deal.
Most
So
government projects are, I mean, I kind of got a little bit of experience in government industry, and I took many steps back and I said, you know what, this is not my piece of cake, right? People who do government project has a lot of patience. It's very, very hard, like working on projects which are 4 years, 5 years, and 10-year old, right? So yeah, I agree. But to your question, what would be the best way for a young professional to look at B2B? I think it would be doing a stint in every department in marketing. Like, I would say get into digital or go into operations, do it for a year or two, go out and shake hands with, customers through your field events or through, customer advocacy programs. Write a little bit, whether you're writing an email or a long format ebook, or for that matter, even create the framework for that, that research paper that you want. Design social campaigns, work with your social team, visualize, and most of all, don't be shy from discussing numbers, because everything in marketing is connected to numbers, right? Sometimes, in HP we went down to the level of which creative performed better. This was back in 2010 and 11. You won't even believe it. HP Shopping, I was doing analysis of which creative was performing better. Was the Mother's Day campaign in 2000, say, 11 was better than the previous year, and why? And I had to do that analysis myself, right? So, discussing numbers, being on top of analytics and analyzing, the performance is something that it should be so easy for you. You can strategize with channel partners for co-marketing or branding, and for that matter you can also do a stretch. I was asked some time back to do stretch in sales operations or inside sales, which I kind of refused, but I regret it after some time. I felt that that have given me a lot more value, because it would have given me a very holistic view of how revenue streams are identified basis, what the past, inflow has been, right? Or the past product performance has been in a particular industry segment or a market. I
mm,
think I think doing stretch projects in sales operations or like inside sales is a big added advantage. So if you are doing smaller stints of a year or two in smaller departments in marketing, sometimes even operations, I think you're set for 5 or 6 years. And that could be your growing step or a ladder towards being a head of marketing or a CMO. Because, like I said, I can write, I can even, organize an event, I can absolutely do anything in marketing because I spent that much time over 20 years doing all of these things. And that is where you it helps you understand the nuances of each of these sciences so much that when you come together and tie it up together as a head, it becomes very easy and intuitive. Then all that you're doing is now operationalizing it, making sure that it is performing better, and with the the market scenario and the competition and of course the business outcome. So yes, do as many jobs inside marketing for 4 5 years, and I think after that you would decide how or what you want to be good at. And I, as my many mentors come, I kind of help them with this ikigai concept, right? Saying that what do you excel at, what are you passionate about, and what is your current need. So when you do all of these different roles, there will be one common role that will meet all of these 3 points.
When
That your
that,
current,
right.
yeah, yeah, your current need could be like, okay, I earn a lot of money or I want to travel, and you're passionate about numbers, and you excel at maybe design. There's no match, right? So I help a lot of mentors, going through that process, and I have a little bit of after assignments for them to do. Yeah, but
Yeah,
that's what I
yeah,
would
yeah.
suggest.
So that's very interesting. And one of the trend that I'm noticing is that, I think you have been a mentor to students, you have been a mentor to entrepreneurs, women marketing leaders, women entrepreneurs, and so on. What drives you to do this, to give back all of that, right? Because even taking time out from your busy schedule.
Yeah, so I actually found it very hard for any at any point of my life to make the right decisions. It was very difficult for me to figure out, should I take up this job, because I was moving industries, right? I was moving, companies or products, and people looked at it like, why would you do that? You stick to one industry, you stick to one industry, because that's how you build depth, and people appreciate because you've been in that industry for so long. So that kind of guidance was never there, right? And then I found that very late, only in the last 5 or 6 years, when I was mentoring, then my husband said, you know what, you need to now get a mentor. This is enough. So then I saw the value of mentorship very late in my career, and much before that, what started out as mentoring my nieces and nephew, because they were starting out their careers, and they didn't know what they should take up. I think just by talking to them, helping, I realized I'm pretty good at it. I kind of motivated them, showed them very unbiased way of going forward, not really taking any path, but helping them narrow down what could be the best way forward. I think that I found, one, that I was very good at it, that I got feedback that it really motivated them and really helped them. It also became a very fulfilling role, right? And because I was part of NMIMS, mentoring for college graduates, training them for their interviews and doing mock interviews, I came across one person through my mentorship, not just from the college, that she I never saw her on the camera, but she was so somber, and she was almost like ready to cry because she didn't know what she had to do, in her career. And it was so important for her to, have that earning capacity consistently, right? And when I was talking to her, I knew it was not mentorship for career path or how do I earn more money. It was more beyond of how do I instill the confidence. I think by the end of it, I could hear her smile. I could not see her. I could hear a smile. I think that really touched me a lot. Like, if I could make a difference and if I have this ability to change somebody's way of thinking, even for one day, why not? And like I said, this just started with something very simple of mentoring my, family members. It gone on to what I say is about 100 people that I've mentored in 5 or 6 years. Young people, MBA graduates, and sometimes even, women leaders, or, women who are 18, 19 years of experience are struggling to break that mold. Or leaders who said, I was in engineering, but now I want to get to the C suite. So what do I change to? What do I do? Like, how do I go about it? Right? It's been very fulfilling. Like I said, it's accidentally, it just happened, and it just kind of made me feel very good about it. And hey, you have Saturday and Sunday, you can absolutely give 1 to 2 hours for something like this. So there is ample time on a weekend, while my kids are more or less grown. They are independent. 5 years back, my son was only about 7. He's 12 now. I think if you decide to do something that you're passionate about, you will find a way to to figure the time and the resources that you need to have.
Yeah, yeah. No, very true. Are there any resources that you think will be helpful mentioning here for the young marketers?
Yeah,
Anything that
sure.
you think?
I think, like I said, I'm very unique. So I have very limited time, right? And I have 2 kids, I have a job, and I'm mentoring. And it's really hard for me to pick out books that I feel are the best. But what I have learned in my time with HP, right? And HP has this huge knowledge repository of IDC, Gartner, Forrester. I actually prioritize on immersing myself in Gartner, Forrester marketing insights, which I find very progressive, right? And they provide a very world class strategic guidance that often feels that is more current from your traditional non-fiction book that is like it's relevant but it's stuck in a moment of time. So I prefer going to those kind of resources because those are real life cases, anecdotes that across industries has have happened, right? And this kind of helps you, it again gives a very worldview versus somebody who, like a textbook, right? In your
Hmm.
MBA positioning ye hai, and at that time it works, but it's not grown because it's hard to change books. But if I have to recommend, one book, it would be Atomic Habits by James Clear. And I resonate because, I relate to the framework of, everyday, small practical changes or improvement can really, bring a bigger impact, as
Hmm.
you move. And when any specific, industry leader is talking about a book, the first thing I do is I efficiently leverage YouTube summaries to grasp what the core essence of that book is,
Right.
and to decide if, should I pick this up at all.
Hmm.
Because these summaries, if you go to the really good ones, they capture most of it, right? Many books just add on extra content just to keep it 200, 300 pages. So I go to these summaries, and if I feel that something is worth, spending more time, then of course I pick it up.
Sure.
But this approach kind of, gives me very leading industry insights, from some of these analysts. And it also brings a very holistic understanding of market dynamics and practices, right? And
Hmm.
what I read back in HP, you won't believe it, some of it I'm seeing it come true now. So I could
Hmm.
relate to it, right? So that's
Yeah.
how far they also can, show what the future can be.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. And now you have Chat GPT,
Absolutely.
right? All right. So where can people find you, Achana?
LinkedIn. I am very, very active on LinkedIn. I do share regular, insights that emerge from my natural work or day to day life. I don't plan content schedules like most LinkedIn, influencers do. But in fact, I am very responsive on LinkedIn. If somebody is asking for help or guidance, I do respond very fast. But I always, keep it a very simple rule. You have one go, and you just can ask me three questions. So that's the way, people can reach out to me. And of course I also
Perfect.
mentor, so I'll be more than happy to do that.
Perfect. So I'll add your LinkedIn details in the show note.
Thank you.
So Archana, it has been fantastic. Realized that when it was over an hour, but really lots of tons of insights for I think startup marketers, SaaS marketers, young entrepreneurs, and even students community. I think I took away a lot of good insights from this discussion. Thank you for your time,
My
Archana,
pleasure.
today on the pod.
Absolutely. I had so much fun talking. I think you added a lot of, nuances and layers of, of your experience, which is what podcast is all about. So I completely enjoyed. Thank you so much for having me here, and I appreciate, you inviting me. And I wish you all the best. I think you are doing something fantastic, and I hear you want to package this and structure this, as a book, as an insight. And like I said, anything that is current, it's a game changer. So if you are talking to so many different industry experts and getting their insights, and you're packaging well, it's going to be definitely a big hit. So all the best to you.
Thank you so much, Archana. It has been really a pleasure. And I also too had a lot of fun talking to you. So thank you so much again. And we'll connect offline.
Absolutely. I have to come to you. Very, 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 very critical, so I'm going to set up some time.
All right. Take care. Thank
Take
you.
care. See you. Bye bye.